The best thing you could do for yourself during a breakup is focus on personal growth. Instead of obsessing about your ex, focus on healing your attachment issues. Learn the skills to repair that relationship. Learn to understand your ex better. And when they come back, you can reattract them in a natural, confident way. My workbook series and my creative healing course were designed to help you during no contact and to grow even if they don't come back. You can get them on my website, askcraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about messy breakups.
Oh, I thought we were about to talk about my room. Okay.
Well, we'll get to that later. But for now, we start with the breakup. Some of you guys are in very unique, messy situations that a lot of times you made the mess. That's the truth.
Relationships are messy to start with, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about human emotions, anything and everything can come out. So, I'm curious to hear what's in store with
Yes,
this
Victoria does not know what's in this email. But, you know, we have to act with respect and integrity with the people that we date. If you really want to keep someone in your life, you need to treat them well. If you don't, then there's going to be fighting, arguing, there won't be trust, which will lead to people getting scared and emotional and lashing out. And, you know, you have to do your best to live with integrity. If you don't, there's going to be consequences. That's just the reality of life with anything. If you don't mow the lawn, it's going to keep growing out of control. If you don't treat people well, they're going to get upset and leave, or, you know, you're going to have problems. So that's why I'm always telling you guys, you want to think about how much you value somebody. Always keep that in mind and treat them with a high level of respect and care. Because if you don't, you're going to lose that person in your life. And you're going to wind up with problems and drama.
Yeah.
A lot of drama.
And it's important just to think through some of your actions and relationships before you do them. I know it's much easier said than done. But when we are acting with integrity, when we are acting in ways that we are trying to show our best selves, trying to put our best selves forward, then we are able to speak for those things.
So sometimes we have to learn the hard way, right? That's just the way life goes. And, you know, that's one of the great things about a breakup is even if you made a lot of mistakes, you can use what you learn to grow and change and become a better person.
Right.
So today I've got an interesting email with a lot going on. Let me just get into this one. They said, "Hi Craig, I've been watching your lectures and it's true. You've managed to change my life for the better. I'm divorced. In the last 5 years of my marriage, I had no relationship whatsoever with my ex-wife. After 5 years, I had enough and joined a dating site."
While married, I assume.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay? Now, if you're not happy in your marriage, it's totally understandable. If sometimes you can't fix those things, it takes two people to do that. But if you go down this road, it can lead to a lot of issues.
Right. And it sounds like you believe that there's no relationship there between you and your wife. I wonder how she sees that. And if that's the case, then that's something that can be discussed. You know, when people hide something, they're always protecting something. And I wonder what that is in this case if there's no relationship there.
Well, let's see. The first woman that I met was an amazing woman. We went out twice, and after the second time, we argued, and she told me, "When you get divorced, we'll get back together." Okay, so he was still married.
Yeah, and I think he's discovering women don't really like it when you're married.
Well, they might be attracted to the the distance because you're not smothering, but then all of a sudden they don't really like it when they want to be committed with you, but you're committed with somebody else. Okay, so that sounded like they had a big argument on the second date. Even though it was only 2 dates, I fell in love. I'm waiting on you.
I'm waiting on me too.
Okay, so Is that love?
You don't know somebody in 2 dates.
No.
You really don't.
No.
It could be lust, it could be infatuation, it could be curiosity. It could have been maybe the first time in 5 years or maybe more that you've felt like you've had someone's full attention for more than an hour, right? And those things can make a really deep impact on us. But I can see how this can be such a slippery slope. You know, he's opened himself up to the world of the dating apps. Now he's opening himself up to the world of actual dating and interacting with women on this romantic level that aren't his wife, that he's felt disconnected with from 5 years. So, you know, I could see he's coming from a very vulnerable stance, and he might not think that because he's in it.
Yeah, you know, that to me is like saying that I met somebody at work and we hung out 2 times and it's my bestest friend. It's like, if you say that to somebody, they're like, wait, how could you know him? You don't even know this guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to love, for some reason, people think, okay, after 2 dates, you can be in love with somebody.
And there's the intensity behind it that you can see the lack that he's experienced in his life, at least recently, in terms of romance.
Sure, I mean, he's barely been, let's just say it's true, and he hasn't had much intimacy with his wife for so many years. You could see why he'd be so happy to finally get attention from somebody.
Right.
Okay, let's go on. And I also collapsed after the breakup. Now, how is it a breakup if you've only gone out 2 times? It's an odd way of putting it for me.
Yeah, and sometimes you see this when somebody has been away from the dating scene for a long time. Just their perception of dating is so different. And the dating scene changes so much over time. It's so different now than it was in like 20 years ago or more.
I mean, 20 years ago, it was really a social stigma to be dating on dating apps.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people were like embarrassed to be on dating apps. Like, oh my God, you're on dating apps?
Yeah, now they're like, which dating app did you two meet
Listen,
on?
in the next 5 years, people are going to have robot partners, boyfriends and girlfriends. We're going to be dealing with robot breakups.
They're going to be like, what iOS are you on?
How to reprogram your ex to get them back. I had to secretly insert a chip in them where they were powering down.
Right, it's going to be like coding.
And I had to upload a new
your
code
ex
where
back.
they were still in love with me. I could see it happening. I mean, seriously. I mean, I posted something like that on my Instagram the other day.
So that's what it seems like to me. It just seems like there's been quite some time that he's been in the dating scene and he's experiencing what it's like to be dating again. There's an intensity behind every interaction.
Yep. I kept pestering her to get back together until we argued again. And I said things she didn't like. I don't know what that means. Within 2 months, I got divorced and immediately called her. She remembered what I had said, and I had to work hard to convince her I didn't mean to end things. He said he ended things, but I thought she ended things. Because she said, call me or contact me if you get divorced.
Yeah.
We dated for 6 months. It was wild and magical. Interesting choice of words. After 6 months, we argued. Here's more arguing. And I told her I wanted to break up. 3 days later, I told her I had made a mistake, but she said she was no longer in that place. There just seems to be a lot of intensity and drama with him.
Right.
Right?
Right. And the other thing that I'm seeing is he's not talking much about the possibility of other perspectives here. He didn't talk about how the divorce and all of that might have impacted his wife. He's also not talking about what she had asked and wanted for in the relationship. Yeah, she wanted him to be available and not married, but outside of that, what else was she looking for? People date, and especially on dating apps, they're looking for all different sorts of things.
I don't know, but we're hearing a theme of arguing.
Right, a theme of arguing, and it sounds like he's doing a lot here to get what he wants.
Good point. And here's more of that.
Okay.
I tried nonstop to win her back and collapsed emotionally again. During that time, I was desperate for a relationship and tried meeting other women, but it wasn't the same. I slept with 2 of them and felt sick, like I was cheating on her. I told her about it, and she ignored me. Then I wrote her a firm letter, and she called me. I don't know what the firm letter is. We spoke on the phone for almost an hour, and then I suggested we meet. We went to a restaurant and a cafe. I was over the moon, but I had a feeling she was very tense and uncomfortable. The next day, I wrote to her saying how great it had been and sent her a book by mail. When she received the book, she became distant. I told her it had been so nice, maybe we should get back together. She told me, "Stop. You're crossing all my boundaries, and if you don't stop, I'll block you." Seems pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? How do we go from, I mean, first of all, sending the gift, like, that's like trying to manipulate and buy her love, right? But then to say, "Stop, you're crossing all my boundaries," it feels like we're missing some information here.
Yeah, and here he said that he could feel that she was tense and uncomfortable, but then it sounds like he continues to push here, sending her the book.
Good point.
Wanting to reach out to her. So if you're sensing that somebody's tense and uncomfortable, that's a sign to take a step back, to maybe have a conversation about that and open up, the room for that kind of a talk, to say, "Hey, what's going on here? What are some of your concerns?" Once again, it's almost like we're only seeing this from his lens, which is understandable, but I'm not seeing him kind of deliberate to himself why she might have been tense and uncomfortable, which I think most people would do. I felt that she was tense and uncomfortable because blah, 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 right? It's just like, I feel like she was tense and uncomfortable, and I want this to work so bad that it doesn't matter why.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but that's the sense I'm
a
getting
lot
from
of this, it feels like I ended it, we argued, and so, you know what I mean? There just feels like feels like he's got a lot of anxiety.
And you have to remember, people are on dating apps for many different reasons, and they're coming from many different starting points, right? She may have come out of an abusive relationship. She may just be dipping her toe into dating.
Mm-hmm.
She maybe doesn't want to be in this super committed relationship. Maybe she has her own fears that she's coming in with. Maybe she does want to be in a super committed relationship. We don't know, right? So we have to be sensitive to other people's wants and needs too here, and see if they truly align instead of forcing it.
Well, let's see what happened. I told her to block me because I didn't want to hurt her anymore, and maybe in a year we could talk again. Since then, I stopped contacting her. That was 2.5 months after the breakup. Even though I didn't contact her, I would write Facebook stories aimed at her. A series about twin siblings where the sister had broken up with her boyfriend, and through the stories, I sent her messages. Very odd thing to say it like that. It just kind of reminds me of stuff Margaret used to talk about, with like stuff floating through the air when you're kind of projecting stuff through the air. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and it sounds like he's trying to indirectly send messages to her instead of giving
directly
her that space.
again.
Not directly, instead of giving her space.
Yeah. Directly, he was already threatened to be blocked, so he's like, "I'm going to do indirect." When we got back together later, I don't know how we jumped to that, but apparently they got back to, somehow they got back together. She asked if those stories were about her. I said yes. I started searching online for how to deal with heartbreak, and I found your lectures. I was completely broken, but your lectures helped me hold back from calling her. They also helped me understand what I was going through and how to cope. 3 months later, she suddenly sent me a message. I waited a bit and replied that I'd be happy for us to be friends. I learned from you that in such a case, you shouldn't pounce, but also shouldn't delay too much. We got back together for another 6 months, then broke up again. I've been unemployed for a long time, and I assume that hurt her sense of security. I didn't try to prevent the breakup, but we don't know what caused this other breakup again.
Right.
In the first month after the breakup, I felt nothing. After a month, the pain in my heart started. I began writing Facebook stories again. See, so he's not really following the stuff that we do. He's very manipulative here. Facebook stories about that he's indirectly trying to get to her, letters, he's just doing all kinds of things that's not showing that he's being thoughtful in his approach here.
Right.
I saw one of her stories where she's sitting at the beach ordering several drinks, and I suddenly panicked that she had a new boyfriend. I wrote a story about the sister going to the beach and seeing her ex with someone new, and it broke her. So another one of these indirect stories. In response, she posted 2 stories. In one, she wrote, "All you need to be happy is to learn how to shine from within. To learn what makes you happy even when you're alone. You're a sun full of light. It's your job to know how to shine, but also to set when needed." So that to me tells me she's trying to indirectly tell him, you need to be okay on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And the second, she filmed her kids and wrote, "We have a love holiday today. If it's already Valentine's Day, then instead of with a lover, spend it with loved ones. I feel like we're communicating indirectly through Facebook. But I'm afraid this might hurt my chances of getting her back because I don't know if this meets the standards of no contact." Well, I think she knows that you're putting these messages up because you already told her that you did it the first time.
Right.
But why this relationship is not lasting, I mean, his behavior feels very intense. It feels very self-absorbed. And that to me tells me he's very anxious.
Yeah.
Right? Because anxiety makes us self-absorbed and selfish.
And anxiety also causes us to people please so hard that sometimes we miss what the other person actually wants. We just do what we think that they would like. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of here. Oh, she wants me to get divorced, I'll get divorced. Oh, we're having these arguments. It just sounds like there's this almost trying to make this work instead of really thinking about those traits, those skills that actually make relationships last, like patience, like being able to have some flexibility, like trying to understand your partner's needs and wants and become attuned to them.
Yeah, this situation, there's so much going on here. And, there's like arguing, but we don't know why. It just feels unhealthy in a lot of different ways. And he really needs to take a look at how he's showing up here and affecting her. Because, I mean, think about it. They finally met up and he sends her a book the next day, and then she's saying, "Stop, you're crossing all my boundaries. And if you don't stop, I'll block you." That makes me feel like she told him some stuff on that date that let him know that she wasn't interested. Right? Like, if she was interested, I don't think she'd be sending this kind of message.
Right.
When she gets the book.
Right.
So it's like, anxiety makes it so we can't hear what the other people are saying. So is he not hearing what she's saying?
Right.
He's only hearing what he wants to hear?
That's what it's seeming like.
That's what it feels like to me.
So I would encourage this person to really take a step back. Now you are going through a divorce and you're dealing with multiple breakups with this person that you've dated. That's a lot to sit with. That's a lot to process. I know it may have seemed like for the last 5 years you weren't getting the attention, affection that you wanted from your partner. You didn't feel like you had a relationship. And so that fear of going back to being alone and sitting with that loneliness can be heavy. But I would encourage you just to give this some space to breathe. I know it can be hard to intentionally create space when that love feels so good. You clearly are very attracted to this person. There's something in you that wants this to work. But sometimes when we have such a tight grip on something, we end up squeezing it, right? We end up squeezing the life out of it rather than giving it the space to breathe and having a healthy relationship with that person. So.
And the other thing that I want to think about, or he needs to think about, is that how is his mental health, right? Like, he says he doesn't have a relationship with his wife for a long time, but he also mentioned he'd been unemployed for a long time. So maybe his wife was frustrated and becoming resentful that he wasn't working and that he was relying on her to pay all the bills. And so she just became more and more resentful that he wasn't working. So then we have him, he was secretly going on a dating site when he was married, saying he fell in love after the second date, that it was a breakup after a second date. There's a lot going on here that makes me feel like he's got a lot of trauma in his life and that he needs to find a good therapist. I think he needs to find a good trauma therapist.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right? because this is very intense. He's projecting a lot of fantasies onto somebody he doesn't know. He's not respecting her needs or her boundaries. He's not respecting his wife, by getting on dating sites. There's just so much going on here. Then he's indirectly trying to message her, on Facebook and creating these fake stories. He's got to focus on just being okay with himself. Getting his mental health under control, looking to get a trauma therapist, somebody that focuses on it, because I think he's got some attachment issues going on here. It would be good if he can get a career or something, a job or something that he can feel good about and just get a nice daily routine of being back at work. Then you have something to be proud of, right?
And I'll say too, when you're unemployed, you have a lot of time on your hands, and sometimes during a breakup, that's the worst thing.
Yes.
Because it can just cause you to spiral and think about things and overthink about things. And I can see a bit of overthinking here just with the Facebook stories that are happening. So I would say if it's difficult to find a job, try to fill in your time with things that are meaningful, that are healthy distractions. I know that anxiety can be overwhelming, but having a meaning or purposeful thing to do can really make a huge difference.
Yeah. I think he's got to focus on getting himself to a good place before he focuses on a relationship or trying to get her back.
I agree.
But this is a lot. This is a lot of intense stuff going on here.
And sometimes the messiness within us starts to reflect in our relationships. And that's a bit of what I see here. Just the way that the story is articulated, I'm not even sure if I'm hearing what he feels or what he's going through. It's just kind of like this chaotic thing happened, then this chaotic thing happened, then we got back together. Next thing. I would encourage him to take some time to really think about what's going on inside of him and to organize his thoughts, organize his emotions a little bit. And that takes time and patience. I think journaling would be great for him. I think it's great that he was able to write this out. I would encourage diving deeper into the feelings of things and also reflecting on different perspectives.
Yep.
That's my take.
Yep. Yeah, I think that he's got to work through some stuff before he figures out how to have any other romantic relationship right now. Okay, so hopefully this one's been helpful to you guys. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.